Gen Z, I'm rooting for you, honestly. I don't. Some people may not like each other, may hate each other a lot, but I root for people. I don't care if they hate me or not. I'm still rooting for you. I don't want people dead. I don't want people homeless. I don't want people in the streets. I don't want people depressed. I don't want people sad. Like, if I could make everybody happy, I would. This is why Gen Z are the poorest generation. Dang, look at all those ads. This sentence throws me off. Is that proper grammar? This is why Gen Z are the poorest generation. All right, let's see why y'all broke up. No, I'm just joking. Why is this the poorest generation? Stealthy's not here, but he might be interested if I watch it.
Good news. The average Gen Zer in the workforce now has a net worth of $22,000.
For real?
No, that's a mistake. Negative 22,000. So what's the actual good news? By the time they hit 27, the average Gen Zer will finally have a positive net worth of $8,142. Hey, progress is progress. But how did Gen Z get this way? Is it really all that avocado toast spending? Or was that the millennials? Today on the Infographics Show, we'll dive deep into the depressing story of why Gen Z is the poorest generation ever.
There we go.
It's no surprise that Gen Z is struggling, and a big part of the problem comes down to money. Take Maddie, a 25-year-old working at a senior living home in Pennsylvania.
You know, I'll tell you right now, what it is impulse buying. People see something, it's that instant gratification. Like, I don't mean to be, but that's what it is. You see it, you want it, I'm gonna get it now, I got the money for it. And, you know, some people weren't really taught how to save either, so that's another thing.
He puts it bluntly, everyone is going to be in debt their whole life. I don't want to be, but I have this feeling that no matter what I do, no matter how hard I work, there is always going to be some kind of debt that I have. It's a legitimate concern, but why don't they just try working for a change?
They do work, but they don't save. That's the problem. Don't get fancy gourmet meals. It's okay to eat like a little bit. You don't have to eat like a big old, you don't have to eat 5 meals a day, bro. Some people be eating way too much, and that's where their money goes to. Fast food, restaurants, DoorDash. Save it. Just save your money, bro. You could live off of apple, bananas, and oatmeal, cereal. It's okay. Rice and like maybe some like turkey bacon if you guys can't eat pork, or just a little bit of bacon or eggs. It's okay. Live a minimalistic life. Save your money, and you won't be like rich, but you'll be able to have enough money to live and be comfortable. Saw these damn immigrants taking the teenage usual jobs, so they're usually here in Canada. I wouldn't say. Look, this is the thing. The reason why most employers take immigrants over people, like for example, like local citizens, is because they're willing to work harder for less pay. A lot of people nowadays, like kids, are so entitled. They're like, I deserve this because I did this. But it's like, how long you been working there? A year? 2 years? There's people that had tenure for 20 years that haven't even gotten a promotion. So why do you think you deserve a promotion? And that's just how it is, bro. It's like, you got to work hard. Baker went Kanye mode. Nah. He's just being honest. It's not false that immigrants were taking a lot of our jobs, but it's also not false that they are harder workers. They work like they have everything to lose.
Pull themselves up by their good old bootstraps. Well, apparently they do work. It just doesn't seem to help them much. One Gen Z Reddit user shared this fond memory about their first full-time job. My first full-time job was at Deloitte, and they paid me $36,000 in 2019.
See, that's
I
not
went into
too
credit
bad.
card debt to pay for the train to work. A full 59% of Gen Z reported feelings of stress and anxiety about their finances, the highest of any generation. While Gen Z is generally stress and anxiety prone, it turns out that they have some very real reasons.
Someone donate $30 so I can get premium. No, I'm joking.
Wages are bad, debts are up, and why is all this happening? Well, let's see what the data tells us. As of 2023, 10.5 million teens and adults aged 13 to 27, or 16% of Gen Z, live in poverty, the highest of any generation except Alpha. Things are so bad that Bank of America recently discovered 46% of Gen Z adults need financial assistance from their family to stay afloat. And it's not because they're lazy. Most of them are working full-time, and a significant chunk of them are working more than one job. In fact, 53% of Gen Z have a side hustle on top of their full-time job just to make ends meet.
But where does the money go? That's the thing. It's like if they're living with their parents, you don't really have to pay rent. Where's that money going? Like that's what I'm saying. Like you should be saving, bruh. That's why leftist politicians want them in, I guess, more work for less pay. Yeah, that's just how it was back then. The thing is, they're coming down with more experience than teens, and that's the main thing in Canada because they can't work in their casual field because for some reason they decided to come to Canada instead of working in their field in their country. Probably because they're open to getting more people to, I mean, Canada's open to hiring them. Because, you know, some places like out here, like for example, I'm in Hawaii, it's really hard to get a stable IT job because most of my work is like contract work. And to find like a stable one that's non-contract where I'm just like on a actual wage, it's really competitive. That's the word I'm looking for. So sometimes you got to outsource. You got to go to another state to hopefully, or another country to hopefully get that job because you're qualified, but you're overqualified to work at other jobs, if that makes sense. Because a lot of people have a bachelor's degree and they have all these other jobs that they worked, but they can't work at McDonald's or they can't work at a retail store because they're overqualified, pretty much. And that's weird. I don't understand that. Yeah, I don't get why people have that sense of entitlement, man. I think it just goes with the way they were raised. For you at school, that's where the money goes. Yeah, that's facts. You know, me, my most of my money is going towards my debt, and I hate that. It really sucks.
It could mean driving for Uber, which, by the way, 24% of adult Gen Zers do, or selling handmade stuff online. And then there are the online services that we'd rather not get into. But you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Many
The
young adults who
only
don't
what?
already have a side hustle are planning to get one just to survive their 20s. In fact, 51% of Gen Z plans to monetize a hobby because nothing makes your favorite pastime more enjoyable than needing it to afford groceries.
I mean, that's
Despite
true.
that, the same Bank of America survey found that 60% of Gen Z adults don't have enough savings to cover 3 months of expenses. So if they get fired or they have an emergency,
This is how we do.
Yo, this dude has ads out the wazoo, dog.
many turn to credit cards. The New York Fed found that 1 in 7 Gen Z adults have already maxed out their credit
paid
cards. And
$700.
that is not just a short-term problem. It wrecks their credit history, making it harder to get loans, rent apartments, and even qualify for better financial opportunities.
Very true. But you paid $700 for one class? That's crazy. If you get fired or have an emergency, this is how we do it. For real, bro. But no, they're hitting it on the head, man. It's for real. Like, it is, I guess, the way inflation works, it's tougher to work like one job and live. And I wouldn't say it's the, it's the government's fault or the job's fault. It bottles down to like your savings. Honestly, at the end of the day, if you don't save your money, bro, and you spend it on everything else and you don't like document what you spend on, because before we used to have like my dad used to teach me how to save money. He gave me like what's it called, one of those finance books where you write down your wages so you keep track of everything. If you have like a spreadsheet of all your everything that you pay for and you're able to plan in advance of what you have per paycheck and you're like organizing your statements and whatnot, you have like a visual representation of what you have. Like nowadays, most people spend without even knowing what they have in their account. They're just like, they put a ballpark number. I'm like, okay, I got paid this much, 1,000 for this check. So I know I got this to spend. And then when you think about it, without knowing what you spend every single time, you don't document it, that 1,000 turns to $2 because you're like, oh, wait, I spent that much money on DoorDash? I spent that much money on going to parties or going out? I spent all that money on my girl, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you got to know what you're spending. And if you don't know what you're spending on, like what you're spending your money on, you're going to go broke. Your normal semester costs $2,000 for 6 classes. And you have to take 2 unique classes, which cost you $900 each, you're not including books. Yo, it is crazy. That is crazy. 15 a day, 2 times a week. Wait, are you paying that out of your pocket or you got parents helping you too?
Oh, and saving for the future? Yeah, that's not happening. We'll get into why Gen Z is racking up debt soon, and despite what Instagram might have you believe, it's not because of champagne brunches and Santorini photo shoots. The real issue is that credit card companies themselves have changed, and not in a way that helps. In fact, many of those changes have put Gen Z at a serious disadvantage.
Yes, but you don't need a credit card, bro. I've known a lot of rich people that haven't used a credit card for anything. You know what I'm saying? Like they probably used it once to probably get their business to start, but they had a plan. It's like they knew that this business is going to make this much, and it will, in about, like I say, 3 to 5 months, they'll be able to pay off their debts. You know, but most of the rich people that I know out here, they don't really they don't have credit cards. And that's crazy to me. And some people do, you know, like I said, but I don't know, it's really tough to say because some people have different lives. It's really hard to pinpoint what the real issue is. But for me, it really just bottles down to saving, and that's what I've learned. Parking is how to get you. Yeah, you got a credit card, you're chilling. The thing about credit cards though, if you do spend money with your credit card, make sure that you could pay double of what you just paid. Like, for example, if you're going to use your credit card to buy a computer and you're going to finance it or whatever, make sure that you could buy 2 computers so it's easy to finance and you got money to, you know, to hold off. If you can't buy 2 computers, then don't even think about buying a computer, pretty much. This advice hits the core. Hey, I'm just trying to give as much advice as I know, man, based off of experience. I'm not perfect either. I be spending money on some food and overspending sometimes, but when I get caught up into it, I make sure I look at my statement. I'm like, okay, this is how much I spent, and this is how much I got to save. Because, you know, I got to pay rent, I got to pay bills, etc.
According to Wallet Hub, the average credit card interest rate reached an all-time peak in August 2024, maxing out at 21.76%. In comparison, just 10 years earlier, millennials trying to pay off credit card debt only had to deal with an average interest rate of 11.82%. Higher interest rates means that any unpaid credit card balances rack up interest much faster than they normally would. That makes the goal of eventually paying off credit cards harder and harder. Bankrate credit card analyst Ted Rossman says, to be just starting out and already falling behind the 8 ball can be a tough cycle to break. And it's not like Gen Z is just mindlessly splurging on their credit cards. Despite all the criticism they get in the media, only 5.5% of Gen Z's average spending is on dining out, compared to 5% for others.
Bro, these commercials are killing me.
Okay,
man.
We are about to create the brand new game.
Other ages, keeping in mind that Gen Z also spends much less than other ages overall. But Moody's Analytics found that the young adult generation is spending much more of their income on necessities compared to other generations, mostly on rent. According to a 2022 American Community Survey by Zillow, a site that may as well sell unicorns for how realistically Gen Z can actually buy a home, 3 in 5 renters aged 18 to 25 spend more than 30% of their income on housing. And in 21 of the largest U.S. cities, that number is even higher. That being said, some of Gen Z's spending is definitely impulse buys. Gen Z tends to scroll TikTok and Instagram like crazy, platforms where half of the creators are trying to sell something. 44% of Gen Z takes influencer recommendations into account when purchasing products. This can result in a lot of regret over overpriced skincare and supplements that either have testosterone-boosting abilities or just ground-up flour in them.
Facts. And this is why, for example, me, I don't really like promoting merch or promoting stuff that you guys can buy. I always stress, like for my YouTube videos and streams, I'm like, I'd rather that, like, I know I don't get paid much off of ad revenue, but I've gotten paid a good amount off of ad revenue. So when it comes to like YouTube videos, all I need is just your like and your view to watch the whole video. And Google will take care of the rest. I don't want y'all to be a member. Like, I'm not asking you to not, like, if you want to support, I really do appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Cause it's like, you don't have to pay financially. You can just watch these videos for free, bro. And like, I don't like asking people for money, for donations, for merch, for just selling things in general. Unless if it's something that I'm really trying to push, like, for example, like Corey, he's trying to push his manga. That's like a dream. I know that he's trying to make an anime eventually or animation. And that's cool. Now, that's different. But if it's like you're constantly trying to sell something to someone, I think that's a bad look for me when it comes to like y'all, because I'm a gamer. Like most of the people who watch my videos are like young kids or people who are in college. So it's like, I know y'all aren't financially stable, and I'm not going to ask y'all to pay an arm and a leg just to support me. I don't need it. Or actually, it's like, I appreciate it, but it's like, I don't want y'all to do that. I'd rather y'all watch for free and let Google take care of the rest, or Twitch.
There would be no way to know. Not to mention, after all the world shut down in 2020, something else that influenced Gen Z's prospects in crazy ways, as you'll soon see, a lot of people wanted to blow off steam and go out and live after being locked down for months.
Yo, the stimulus checks,
living
the
requires
stimmies, I remember that too. Yeah, I'm about to do a challenge. Every time we get an ad, I'm taking a
How
shot
can Gen Z even start paying off so
of
much
hot
credit card debt?
sauce.
One option is to go back to their childhood bedrooms, and a lot of Gen Z never left them in the first place. In terms of staying with their parents, Gen Z outperforms even the youth of the Great Depression, a contest that no one has ever wanted to win. In July 2020, the Pew Research Center discovered that 52% of young adults lived with at least one of their parents. This set a new record, as the previous highest share was only 48%, recorded in 1940. Now, you might be thinking, hey, wait a minute, July 2020 was right after the pandemic hit. That can't be the general state of things. And you're right, because in February of 2020, just as COVID was starting the world tour, the number of young adults living with their parents was only 47%. Hovering just a percentage point below the tail end of the Great Depression is never a good sign. And with 56% of Gen Z saying they live paycheck to paycheck, rent isn't just expensive, it's a dead end. How are they supposed to save money or pay off student loans when the jobs they got because of those loans barely even cover the bills?
I'll answer that for you right now. You save what you can. For example, if you get, let's say that you don't get paid much. You get like $400 per check, which is like $800 a month, right? That's after taxes too. Pretend that you only made like enough for what you have to pay. So like if you have like cell phone bills, like most likely people have to pay rent and a cell phone bill. Like those are the two key things. So cell phone bill is like what, $50-$60. Rent is, depending on where you live, between like I guess $400 to $1,200. Like if you have roommates, you're probably paying less. But if you don't have a roommate, you're probably paying upwards of like $1,200 to $2,000 a month, maybe even more. The way to fix that is to find like a cheaper house if you're paying too much and if you can't afford it, but save what you have. Like, so all right, let me backtrack because I'm starting to get off a tangent. So if you have 800 and rent is like what, 500 or 6. Let's say that you only have 600 to your name. You save that 200 pretty much, and then keep doing that every month. 200 times 12 equals what? 2,400. Or yeah, 2,400. So you saved 2,400 that year, and just keep on rinsing and repeating and save what you can. Like even if it's 2 pennies, like just save.
But Gen Z is working, so what gives?
You got college questioning about why you didn't pay taxes like 3 years ago, as if you weren't 16. Yeah, some people are unrealistic. It's so stupid. But yeah, the timing of the stimmies at that time was crazy, but really appreciate it. I think it was taught 7/20/10 for actual expenses. Exactly. That's actually a good way of putting it. But if you have nothing to your name, like you gotta, you know what I'm saying? You just gotta save what you can. Like whatever is tangible, whatever is tangibly available after you pay all your bills, you got your groceries and all your necessities. Don't buy no wants. Don't get anything. No impulse buying. Just get what you need. Save the rest. That's how you make money. That's how you save your money with the way things are working out in this economy.
The answer is the insanely high cost of living and the refusal of wages
I'm about to crash out.
to match it. In 2022, Gen Z was paying 31% more for housing than millennials were just a decade before them, adjusted for inflation. And millennials were already getting a bad deal. Gen Z and millennials pay on average almost 100% more for their homes than baby boomers in the 1970s.
Because
in 1975,
they're greedy.
the average home in the U.S. cost $42,600, or $244,700 when adjusted with 2024 inflation rates.
True, but also people forgot how to banter. You know, you got to learn how to drop the prices a little bit. A lot of people with real estate agents, they give like a high price with hopes for you to lower it. But a lot of us youngins don't know how to barter. I said banter. Know how to barter. So we're like, oh, that's the price? Okay, I'll pay it. And they're like, huh, really? Okay. And then you just gave them a bag. Yeah, I meant to say barter, not banter. If you was really strapped for cash, you'd have 1 meal a day for 8 days. Yeah. You go to Loblaws and get 60 pieces of chicken in 2 large size for 32 and then divide it up for 8 days. Yeah. Or, this is what I did for a long time. You get chunky noodle soup, bro, and rice. That's all you need. Chunky noodle soup and rice. Different flavors. And it's pretty cheap. It's like 2 for $4, sometimes, or 2 for $5 or $6. And then you just get a bunch. Get like 12 for the week. Get some rice. You good.
In 2024, however, the average home cost just over $512,000. And if you're looking in major metro areas where top universities and booming job markets are supposed to offer better opportunities, the prices are even worse. And that's not the only cost of living to shoot up over the decades either. From 2012 to 2022, car insurance payments more than doubled, even accounting for inflation, and health insurance spending went up 46%. While wages also went up, they only increased by an inflation-adjusted 26%. That doesn't even cover the higher housing prices, never mind everything else. And that's just comparing Gen Z to millennials. Things get even worse when you stack them up against baby boomers. Back when the boomers were in their 20s, they had 86% more purchasing power than Gen Z does today.
This is true,
Imagine
though.
walking into a boomer's house at 25, yes, an actual house at 25, that's not a myth, and tossing out 17 of every 20 things they owned. What's left is the equivalent of what Gen Z can buy today compared to boomers at the same age. Not to mention, boomers weren't drowning in as much debt. When it comes to credit cards, Gen Z unfortunately owns the most. TransUnion found that the average
My
Gen
dad's
Zer's
from
debt
school.
totaled around 16% of their income at the end of 2023. Millennial debt totaled 12% of their income 10 years before that. Gen Z is also much more likely to fall behind on credit cards and car payments because they can't afford them. But the biggest expense for most of Gen Z is by far college. The average Gen Zer owes $20,900 in student loans.
Guilty
That's a
as
14%
charged.
increase on what millennials owed at the same age. And more of them owe it. 36% of young adults aged 20 to 25 have student loan debt, which is 5 percentage points higher than millennials when they were that age. It may be easy for older generations to just say, so don't go to college. But the job market has drastically changed since the days of, why don't you walk into that office with a resume and a firm handshake and ask if they're hiring? Now the labor market is much more competitive.
Yeah.
It's harder to get into in the first place, and the percentage of jobs that require a college degree has shot up. Back in 1973, when a lot of boomers were just starting out in the job market, only 28% of jobs required any kind of higher education, whether it was an associate's, a bachelor's, or beyond. Fast forward to 2018, and that number had jumped to 63%. And if college feels like a necessity for the workforce now, it's only going to get worse in the future. The same report projected that by 2031, 72% of jobs will require some form of higher education, with 42% needing at least a bachelor's degree just to be considered.
Right.
So, forget about college then
Crazy.
is not really an option for most
Yeah, the
of
ads
Gen
are
Z,
crazy.
because the costs keep getting higher. Specifically since the 1970s, the cost of private school tuition and fees have gone up by 2,107%. And the cost of even public school tuition has gone up by 2,580%. Well, surely inflation will make that number sound slightly less terrible.
Oh my, bro, I'm about to not watch this video.
What
the heck, dog?
Right?
There's an ad every 10
Unfortunately,
seconds.
not, because those numbers have already been adjusted
I don't even know if I want to watch this video no more.
for inflation. For private school,
You know, I really fear for the next gen. I do. I really do. Because I want everyone to be successful, man. But it's really tough in this economy. You're gonna hop on Indeed and see if you can find jobs and qualify for. Yo, Indeed does not work. I'll tell you that right now. Go directly to the website if they're hiring. Like if you see that they're hiring on Indeed, go to the website, give them your resume, and then also a cover letter, and then fill out the application on site, literally on site.
The average boomer student in 1970 paid $1,600 for 1 year of tuition, which translates to $12,000 adjusted for 2022
$3K?
inflation.
You
in
owe
2022,
$3K
that
for
same
1 year?
tuition cost $41,600. And of course, the prestigious private universities generally run much higher than that. For public university, a 1970s student paid $400 for 1 year of tuition. Searching the pockets of our
they do
jeans
kick?
and underneath our couch cushions
Not in America.
could cover half of that. That translates
Apparently.
to $2,800 adjusted for 2022 inflation. In 2022, the average student paid $11,400 for a year of public university instead. Back in 1970, the median income was $9,870 per year, about $190 per week. That meant a summer job alone could cover the $400 needed for a full year at the public university. Even the $1,600 tuition for a private school was well within reach of a part-time job during the year. Now, well, good luck covering a single textbook with summer job money. But there is a tiny silver lining to the college debt problem. Some sources found that despite their student loans, Gen Z's overall debt
I'm really sorry about these ads, y'all.
isn't as large as
Yo.
that of older generations. The bad news is that's because older generations are paying off mortgages on homes that Gen Z can't even afford to look at. Well, for Gen Z to be going into all of this debt for college, they're hopefully getting a steady, great-paying job out of it.
Layoffs.
As you might have guessed, given the tone of this video,
Nothing
no,
personal?
they're not.
Right.
The U.S. job market has historically had low unemployment for years now, but Gen Z isn't exactly winning in that equation. On paper, going to college seems like a smart move. College grads have a 2.2% unemployment rate compared to 4.5% of those who didn't attend.
That's also another crazy thing right there. It's almost showing us that we don't even need to go to school and it's wasting our time. But it's like everything, when it comes to jobs, if you know people, that's when you could get your foot in the door. So it's all about creating relationships and being able to speak to people. Because I noticed most of the jobs that I got was from hearsay. So like politics, someone that I knew, and they're like, yeah, you should hire him because he's cool, he's a great worker, and he knows a lot of stuff. And they're like, okay, I'll hire him. And then I got the job. When you get your diploma, you're going to see if you get a chance with your aunt who's a bookkeeper. Hey, that's cool. A bookkeeper. Dang, I didn't even know that was still a thing. Everything is all digital. Your college is a private institution, but it's publicly funded. Never heard of that. That's cool. What school do you go to?
But recent grads are actually doing worse than both groups, with a 5.3% unemployment rate. A number of factors contribute to this, including the more volatile industries, shifting job markets, and the fact that when mass layoffs hit, younger, less experienced workers are usually the first to go. Spencer Kammerman, a University of California at Irvine computer science and engineering graduate, gives one example of this. At 25 years old, he's already been hired and fired from 2 tech companies. Tech is an industry known for frequent mass layoffs, and unfortunately, it's also one that needs a lot of young college-educated adults.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is why I do mostly contract work. It's competitive, man.
Since the last time he was fired, Kammerman has been job hunting for 8 months, applying to hundreds of positions. He's gone through lengthy interview processes since then with multiple companies, but he hasn't found a new job yet.
See, the thing about IT jobs too is that they really want to find a reason to fire you, because I guess it's a very expensive, industry. I don't know. Or maybe they want to be the only ones getting paid for it because they don't really need that many people to work. But I remember one time I was working this one IT job way back when I was like 18, 19. I was like my second year out of college. It was out here in Hawaii. And I was working for this one company called Network 2000. And then they flew this guy, this guy from Kauai. And he was like, I'll never forget his name. His name was Ian. And you know how like people are just really controlling and they have that mindset like you better not mess up because I will find a reason to fire you. Like that's how he was. Like I was late almost, it was pretty often, but if you think about it, I live like 30 to 45 minutes from the job location, and they're aware of that. And Hawaii has a huge traffic issue in the morning. Like if you try to get anywhere, you have to commute anywhere in the morning, you have to leave like 2 to 3 hours beforehand just to get to work. And that's ridiculous. But I would wake up early, and there was times where I would wake up 3 to 2 hours before, and I'll still get there like 2 to 3 minutes late. And then one time I got there late, I guess too many times. I think it was like my fifth time or something, but it's not even that late. And it's not like they really needed me right away. And it was like 2 to 5 minutes late per, maybe 10 max. And they're like, oh, you got to get here on time. And then they had to talk, and then he fired me. And then he was talking about how like he was a boxer and stuff. He's like, and I was just laughing at him because he's this skinny, scrawny Asian dude, you know what I'm saying? Or actually, no, he's probably Hawaiian local guy. But yeah, I just laughed in his face. I was like, if you just want to get rid of me, bro, just tell me. And every time I got fired by someone for being late, which was twice, I just smiled at them like this. Okay. And then I left. It's like, what are you trying to prove? Like, people are just stupid. And then they wonder why some of us don't want to work. It's because of that. There's people like that who abuse their power. He was trying to box me. I really wish he did. Because I would have knocked him out, bro. Sorry, God, but I would have knocked him. I would have broke his face. Like I like the thing about me. I try not to get into fights or get into altercations because I know what I'm capable of, and I don't want to kill nobody. And I'll catch a charge, 100%. So I'm really nice to people. Because if you get on my bad side, bro, I'm pulling your esophagus out your neck. Fatality. You dead.
Thanks in part to massive competition for just a few spots. According to LinkedIn, the use of AI for cover letters and resumes has also seriously increased the number of applications per job opening as the applications become easier to do. Eventually, Kyraman ended up where most Gen Zers do, back home with his parents. As he puts it, it feels like the odds are stacked against us. It's been difficult to get off the ground, but I'm not giving up. Despite his hope, major companies like McKinsey aren't projecting much of a rosy future for Gen Z and their jobs. The McKinsey Global Institute said that by 2030, almost 375 million workers will have to find new jobs or new industries altogether due to AI
Suggest
automation.
kicking rocks down the
Critics
street.
point out that, like anything McKinsey says, this projection should be taken with a massive grain of salt.
That's
It
another
relies
thing
on a
too,
lot of assumptions
AI.
about how quickly AI will develop and be widely adopted.
If I see this Game of Thrones King's Road ad one more time,
But even without technology threatening to replace them, Gen Z is still having trouble finding the kinds of jobs high schoolers used to get for pocket change. For example, the decline of brick-and-mortar stores and the rise of e-commerce means the once reliable world of retail work is increasingly unsteady. And the lack of job security once Gen Z gets into the workforce doesn't make it any easier to make a steady income, let alone...
well, not only that, some kids don't even want to work at McDonald's or Wendy's. And that's one thing. They're like, I'll never work at a fast food restaurant. It's like, well, you got to get a job. Like, what do you mean? I know this, I had a friend like way back then. He's like, he couldn't get a job. I was like 17 at the time. He was 15. And I was like, bro, just apply at McDonald's. They're hiring. He's like, you won't catch me working at McDonald's. I was like, all right, then go broke. Go broke, bro. Go broke. I worked at like 2 McDonald's, a Wendy's, and a Burger King when I was growing up. And that's how I got my foot in the door. And then from there, I worked at Adidas, True Religion, IT job. My resume is crazy. IT jobs. Where else did I work? I worked for moving and storage companies, Island Movers, M. Dyer and Sons, but M. Dyer and Sons is no longer here anymore. Yeah, that's pretty good. Microsoft. I might get a job at Apple soon because they actually are looking for workers, and they sent they're like, send me your resume, and I was like, dang, they must be desperate. So that's another good thing. Just imagine losing your job to AI and you go through the process of changing industries. Yeah, that's so true. Like that's the only scary thing about AI. But as an IT worker, I feel secure because AI can't do what IT workers can do, at least yet.
Alone plan out savings and retirement accounts. That's partly because of the rise of the gig economy, which has converted a lot of salaried positions into contract positions. 36% of U.S. workers are in the gig economy, which is growing 3 times faster than the regular workforce. It's not just Uber drivers and Postmates delivery either. At 40% of companies, 1 in 4 workers is now a part of the gig economy instead of in a full-time salaried position.
I DoorDash.
Though there are some big benefits to gig work depending on what it is, setting your own hours, for example. It's not very stable. It doesn't come with benefits, and most gig work isn't well paid either. In addition, for better paid full-time jobs, many bosses and hiring managers have a dim view of Gen Z employees.
Handle every part of your build from one platform.
Well, there's this new thing. If you're looking for gig work, and you have a car, I do recommend Flex. That's a good one. They just don't have it in my area yet. But DoorDash, Uber Eats, Uber, all that stuff it helps. It really does. And I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you I don't DoorDash. I'm too good for that. No, I DoorDash, bro. And then once Flex is a thing for me, I'm gonna Flex when it comes to Flex is a Amazon delivery service. So it's kind of like DoorDash, but you use your own car, pick up packages at the distribution center, and then deliver the packages wherever they have you.
And would rather not hire them in the first place. Researchers asked
Wait, what was that?
better paid full-time jobs, many bosses and hiring managers have a dim view of Gen Z employees and would rather not hire them in the first place.
That's
Researchers
also another
asked
thing.
Employers what they'd prefer to do when they had a job vacancy, ranking a series of actions, among them hiring a Gen Z employee. They found that some employers will go to extreme lengths to avoid hiring Gen Z. 45% said they'd rather hire a freelancer or get a retired employee back. 37% said they'd rather make AI do the job. And 30% would rather leave the position unfilled. So, what financial approach is Gen Z using to build their future? For some, the answer is giving up on the future entirely. 23-year-old Sophie expressed her thoughts on the economic cards stacked against her and her generation.
It really sucks. I do feel sorry for y'all, the Gen Zers that are actually diligent workers, and the lazy Gen Zers just ruined that for you. It's like a lot of these employers gave them a chance and they ruined it. They try to take advantage of the situation, and a lot of people will try to do less to make more money. And it's like, it's one thing to do less to optimize your workflow, but doing less to be lazy just to not even finish your job at the end of the day and say, I don't care, I'm gonna get paid anyways. That's stupid. Like, that's a waste of company wage and a waste of your time, because you're not even contributing to society. You're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs on social media, taking selfies, saying, hey, look at me, guys, I'm getting paid to do nothing. What kind of flex is that, bro? Like, you ruined it for Susie. Now Susie can't get a job because of you.
3-year-old Sophie expressed her thoughts on the economic cards stacked against her and her generation. We've got climate change, war. It's like, are we even going to be here to retire? I don't necessarily feel worried.
Dang.
It's more like helplessness.
That's
COVID
real too.
Definitely didn't help in that regard. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, older Gen Z kids were just entering college or the workforce. At a time when they should have been networking, honing their social skills, and getting some hands-on experience, they were sent home and they had to wait out some of their most formative years.
I won't lie,
Young
I hate
people found
remote work,
themselves in the midst of a job
but I'm
crisis
forced to do it.
as industries either told workers to go remote.
Yeah, I hate remote work. Some people are like, oh,
Okay,
it must be nice to be a remote worker. I'm like, no. Remote work is terrible and I hate it. I'd rather be around people. I want to apply, but I'm not like, woe is me, you know what I'm saying? I'm thankful, but, you want to apply to Walmart, but the Walmart hiring is where your brother got his car broken into and you want to bring the Jeep there. Hey, take the bus, take the metro, walk, bike. A lot of options there.
Or laid them off. Some started new jobs where they never even got to meet their bosses or their teams to get some good mentorship and networking opportunities. And college students didn't make vital in-person connections that could help them enter the job market with recommendations after graduation. Beyond all of these factors, there is one more reason that Gen Z is the poorest generation, one that doesn't get discussed often because they were born that way. Let us explain. Economic inequality has been increasing for decades in the U.S., as is obvious when looking at young people's financial status today. The Federal Reserve says the average net worth for people under 35 is $76,300. If that sounds impressive and wrong to you, well, that's because it's way off base for most young adults. The median young adult has a net worth of only $13,900. The average is just thrown off because of a small percentage of young adults who are either very high earning or very high inheriting.
There's like
But
no
what
in
about the
between.
Gen Zers who inherit nothing? Because in the U.S., incomes and birth rates are correlated, and generally people below poverty level tend to have more kids than people above the poverty level. In 2005, in the middle of Gen Z being born, those with an income below poverty level had a birth rate of 95, while those with an income at 200% of poverty level or more had a birth rate of 45, which means there are disproportionately more kids being born into poverty compared to the general population. And in the U.S., with lower rates of social mobility and fewer public safety nets compared to other developed economies, being born into poverty often means it's really hard to leave it. Gen Zs born into poverty sat at a serious disadvantage. They often get a lower quality education and have fewer opportunities for higher education.
Also, another thing, it's a mindset too, bro. If you give up, then you ain't gonna make money, bro. You gotta hustle. Like, that's what it is. People, like, you can't teach hustle to people, but you gotta hustle. Like, you gotta work like it means something to you. Like, you got everything to lose. Some people are just okay with failing, and it's like I'm gonna fail anyway, so I'm just gonna fail. It's like, no, don't give up, bro. Like, don't tell yourself that. Don't grovel in your own pain. Like, yeah, it sucks, but you can only hit rock bottom once, you know, or actually not once, but you can only hit rock bottom, and that's it. You can't go any deeper. Climb your way out, bro. You got free transit through your college. Hey, that's good. Use that. You're money motivated, so as long as it's with the bounds of the law, I'm down. Exactly. That's how you got to be. Stay money motivated. You don't have to do illegal things to make money quick. You can still make money the way that, you know, we normally make money. You just got to hustle, like, for real. And don't grovel. Don't like, kick that woe is me mentality, bro. For real. Like, the people who are rich did that. Like, if you look at Warren Buffett, you look at all the multi-billionaires, you look at even like rappers now, like Jay-Z, for example. Like, he's one of the richest black males out there because he saved his money, or other things, you know. But I'm not even gonna get into that. But he saved his money though, and he has a constant cash flow. It's all about residual income. Once you have something coming in consistently, make it snowball. That's how it is. That's why I recommend YouTube for people who are able to mentally handle it. Because I'll tell you, content creation and YouTube is not for everyone. Like, it takes a mental toll on you, and you have to overcome that. Because you're not gonna start off at the top. You're gonna start up all the way down there, bro. Like, lower than you've ever been. Like, in the pits, the trenches. And you got to climb your way out and then make it happen. And it's all research, learning, and just having an open mind and willing to always learn, and also not giving up. It bottles down to never giving up, like, for real.
Making it even harder to. They often get a lower quality education and have fewer opportunities for higher education, making it even harder to break out of the cycle. On top of that, they can't rely on parental financial help or stay at home rent-free for long, something a lot of Gen Z needs just to get by.
Facts.
So Gen Z kids brought up in poverty often become poor Gen Z young adults. Despite this, there are a few encouraging signs. The Atlanta Fed found that wages for 16 to 24-year-olds rose 8.6% in 2024, compared to 5.2% of the general population. So perhaps companies are finally realizing they need to pay their young workers a respectable wage. Student loan forgiveness helped a lot of people claw their way out of debt and be able to start saving. An expanded program could set young adults up for better financial futures. Stronger
Consolidate
laws protecting
your
employees
loans.
from random firings and guaranteeing benefits for gig workers could also provide some stability for Gen Z adults. But those programs are unlikely to happen soon, and the longer-term view doesn't look great, especially with poverty rates for Gen Alpha equal to those of Gen Z, 16%. Is
Dang.
Gen Z truly the poorest generation, or is this just the usual back in my day argument from older generations? Let us know what you think in the comments. Now go check out why Gen
Actually, yeah, I don't think Gen Z is the poorest. I just think that there's so much opportunity that most Gen Z, they don't know where to start. And when they see other people on social media making money like this, they think that happened like they started yesterday and it happened overnight. It's like, nah, bro. They've been building their empire for 10 years, man. Like when it comes to like YouTube, like I will give some advice, like know your niche. For example, me, it was a blessing. Like I had an afro at a time. A lot of people came because they thought I was Corey and he was on a break. So I honestly thank the Samurai and Corey for that. And that's God given, bro. Like some people don't believe in God, but it's like, I see it. Like I should be dead. I should be homeless. I should not be around, but I'm still here. And I don't even know why I'm still making videos or streaming sometimes. Cause it's like, I'm not where I visualize myself. Like I was hoping to be in the millions by now, but it's a slow roll, if I get there, I'll get there. If I don't get there, I don't get there. It's just like I'm gonna keep doing this because I love it. And that's what it also bottles down to as well, is like if you don't love making videos or love hustling, you're not gonna love YouTube or you're not gonna love streaming, because it just, yeah, it's so much goes into it. But it's all about not giving up. That's the best advice I could give. It's so generic, but it's like I'm not even where I want to be, so I can't really. I'm not even a financial guru. Like I'm not even like rich, but I'm able to live, and I could give the best advice that I could give based off my current experience. But once I get to a point where I do have everything I've always wanted, that's when I'm able to teach y'all based off of experience. But the only advice I could give is to hustle, bro. Hustle hard within the means of the law. Don't look at other people and compare yourself to them, because you are not them. And don't grovel in your pain. That's another thing. I've seen a lot of people saying like they're just sad because they're in a position where they thought, or where they never thought they would be, because they wanted to be somewhere else. And it's like, you'll get there, man. It's a journey. Just let it work. Let it cook, man. Let it cook. And that's your TED Talk from me. Gen Z, I'm rooting for you. Honestly, I don't. Some people may not like each other, may hate each other a lot, but I root for people. I don't care if they hate me or not. I'm still rooting for you. I don't want people dead. I don't want people homeless. I don't want people in the streets. I don't want people depressed. I don't want people sad. Like if I could make everybody happy, I would. Because that's my main goal, bro. I just want people happy at the end of the day. Like, I don't always reach out to people either, but you know what I'm saying? I don't always reach out to people either. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably my fault. But it's like half the time I don't have nothing to say. I'm not much of a guy to do small talk.
Look at the size of that thing.
You know what I'm saying? But it's like, if you need me, I'll be there. That's just the type of friend I am. And if I have the finances to help, I will. But if I don't, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be like, bro, if I had 100, I'll give it to you, but I can't because I need this for food. I need this for rent. And that's really how it's been. Like before, I used to have extra money. I used to be able to give it out to help people, but I'm not in that situation yet. I'll be back on it though. I'll be back. But hey, let's play some games, bro.